Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to delve into a phrase that might sound provocative: the mild psychosis of civilization. Now, let's be clear from the outset. This isn't a medical diagnosis you'll find in any psychiatric manual. Instead, it's a concept, a metaphor, if you will, often used to describe a pervasive, subtle psychological unease, a sense of alienation, pressure, or even a distortion of reality that some argue is engendered by the very nature of our modern complex societies. It's a fascinating idea that prompts us to look critically at the world we have built and how it shapes our inner lives. And that's precisely what we're going to explore today. Moving beyond the simple definition that we have been asking, if this mild psychosis is a potential byproduct of modern Western living standards, what would a way of life that is less likely to induce such psychological stress look like? Our aim here is not to romanticize the past or condemn modernity, but to engage in a deeper philosophical understanding of human behavior. By contrasting the characteristics of our contemporary lives, our social connections, the pace we keep, how we perceive reality, and the information that surrounds us with different models of human organization, we can begin to shed light on the specific pressures and challenges that modern civilization might pose to our psychological well-being. Let's explore these parallels and see what they reveal about the human psyche navigating the complexities of the modern world. We take the mild psychosis of civilization as a metaphor for the pervasive, subtle psychological distress, alienation, and potential distortion of reality engendered by certain aspects of modern Western living. We can indeed draw parallels with contrasting ways of living that might be considered less psychosis-inducive in this metaphorical sense. The comparison isn't about finding a perfect, stress-free utopia, nor is it about suggesting that clinical psychosis is absent in other cultures. Instead, it's about contrasting the types of stressors and the buffers against psychological fragmentation provided by different ways of organizing human life. Here are some parallels drawn by contrasting aspects of modern Western living standards with characteristics often found in more traditional, communal, or nature-connected ways of life. If you look at the modern Western way of life, it tends towards individualism. Nuclear families are often geographically dispersed. Digital interactions replacing deep in-person connections. High mobility leading to transient relationships. A sense of isolation despite being surrounded by people. This can all contribute to feelings of being disconnected, unsupported, and potentially leading to anxiety and difficulty grounding one's sense of self in a stable social reality. And if you look at the more ideal one, less metaphorically psychosis-inducive, the more traditional set is often characterized by strong, extended family ties, tightly knit communities with frequent face-to-face interaction, clear social roles and obligations, and communal activities that reinforce belonging. This provides a robust social safety net and a strong sense of identity derived from the group and consistent reality checks through shared experience, potentially buffering against the feelings of alienation and existential drift. When we speak about the pace, pressure, and purpose within a modern Western contextualized way of living, you can immediately see it being characterized the by the fast pace, constant pressure to be productive. Some people call it the grind set mentality. Um, always grinding, always being productive, the achieving and the consuming, a focus on abstract goals, um, career advancement, financial accumulation, um, and a blurring of lines between work and personal life. This all can lead to chronic stress, burnout, feelings of inadequacy, and a sense that one's worth is tied solely to external metrics, potentially fragmenting self esteem and creating a driven, anxious state. And contrasting all of these characteristics with the more traditional sense, the metaphor, the ideal maybe, is that it often follows natural rhythms, seasons, day night cycles. It focuses on tangible tasks essential for survival and immediate community well being, farming, crafting, hunting, and purpose is often deeply integrated with tradition, spirituality, or the welfare of the immediate group. This can foster a stronger connection to the present moment, a clearer sense of tangible accomplishment, and a purpose that feels inherently meaningful within a shared context, potentially reducing abstract anxieties and the pressure for external validation. When trying to contextualize the relationships within reality and meaning, if we look at what the modern Western traditions have created, is that reality is often mediated through screens, abstract systems, financial markets, political narratives, social media feeds. Meaning can therefore feel very fragmented or elusive in a diverse, secular, and rapidly changing world, leading to existential questioning and a search for individual purpose without a strong collective narrative. The emphasis on consumerism can also create a reality centered on acquiring material goods, which may not fulfill deeper psychological needs. And so, contrasting this with the more natural, more traditional way, you see then that reality is often more directly experienced through interaction with nature, through physical labor and immediate social dynamics. Meaning is often provided by strong, shared cultural narratives, religious beliefs, and traditions that explain the world and one's place within it. Perhaps one would look at Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero's Journey, about initiation, about trials, about testing. This, these types of rituals that used to be so um, so inherent in human society and tradition, which is now all the more gone and we have forgotten. While these systems can be rigid, they do offer a coherent framework for understanding existence, potentially providing a buffer against disorientation and the feeling of meaninglessness. We live now in what we call the information age, an age of overwhelming information, abundant information from every sphere of society, from social media to the internet to artificial intelligence, we are bombarded by information. And so the modern West, and eventually, in a global sense, is being characterized by information overload, a constant stimulation from multiple sources, fragmented news cycles, and the potential for echo chambers and misinformation. Just have a look at Reddit, 4chan, Telegram, with all their different subcategories. You can see how easy it is to fall into a form of echo chamber. This can make it difficult to discern truth from falsehood. And I admit myself, I have fallen many times into these categorical echo chambers. This can make it difficult to discern truth from falsehood and contribute to anxiety about global events and create a sense of being overwhelmed and powerless. And so, contrasting this with the more traditional sense, where you have information flow that is typically slower, localized, and often transmitted through oral tradition and direct observation. A shared understanding is built on common experience within the community. While limiting in scope, this can provide a more stable and manageable information environment, reducing external noise and fostering a shared, less contested understanding of immediate reality. How can we philosophically conceptualize these ideas and this understanding to a more coherent way in our daily lives? This comparison highlights how different societal structures prioritize different aspects of human existence. Modern Western civilization, with its emphasis on progress, mind you, progress is often very linear, in contrast to the traditional sense of everything being cyclical. Look at nature. If you look at the individual liberty and abstract systems and technological advancement, it has undeniably brought immense benefits. However, these very strengths may inadvertently create conditions like isolation, chronic stress, and a search for meaning in a fragmented world that contribute to our metaphorical mild psychosis. What can we call it in a more, not so much in a metaphorical sense, but in a more strategically used phrase for our daily lives? I would say a widespread state of subtle psychological unease. And how do we relate to this? So, in contrast, ways of life that prioritize strong communal bonds, direct engagement with the tangible world, slower rhythms, and a shared meaning system that may offer greater resilience against certain types of psychological fragmentation and alienation. They might provide a stronger sense of belonging and a more integrated understanding of self within a coherent reality. Ultimately, this comparison is not a call to abandon modernity, not necessarily, but a tool for understanding the potential psychological trade-offs of our current way of life. This suggests that fostering stronger community ties, cultivating a more mindful relationship with technology and information, reconnecting with nature, and finding shared sources of meaning could be crucial in mitigating the mild psychosis inherent in the pressures of modern civilization, thereby promoting a deeper and more grounded form of human well-being. So, as we conclude our exploration of the mild psychosis of civilization, we understand it not as a clinical diagnosis, but as a helpful and powerful metaphor, a way to speak about the subtle, pervasive psychological pressures and forms of alienation that can be woven into the fabric of modern life. Our journey involved contrasting the characteristics of contemporary Western living, its pace, its emphasis on individualism, its mediated realities, with elements found in ways of life that might offer different buffers against psychological fragmentation. We've seen how factors like strong community bonds, a slower pace, a more direct connection to tangible reality, and shared meaning systems can potentially mitigate some of the stressors that the mild psychosis metaphor points to. Ultimately, this philosophical exercise isn't about finding a single answer or advocating for a return to a romanticized past. It is more about gaining a deeper understanding of the intricate relationship between the civilizations we built and the psyches that inhabit them. By recognizing the potential psychological costs alongside the undeniable benefits of modern progress, we are better equipped to navigate our world more consciously and perhaps seeking ways to cultivate connection and find moments of stillness, ground ourselves in tangible experience, and build communities that nurture well being in the face of civilizational pressures. The conversation about how we live and how that living shapes who we are is ongoing. We here at the Swan Council would like to conclude this with a message of the pursuit of a deeper understanding of the world around us and ultimately an understanding of ourselves. A thirst for wise discernment ought to be our purposefully stated goal. Thank you for joining this exploration with us.